every single civilization, it failed because either it couldn't channel power, it was less powerful. And it's very relevant to Bitcoin. People have been creating money, or currencies. The currency isn't worth anything. People don't want to trade with them because they debased the currency. They inflated it away. Then you say, wow, Bitcoin would have solved that problem.
Michael Saylor's passion for history sheds light on enduring truths about humanity's story. Through his exploration of the past, he prompts us to recognize patterns that influence our world. From ancient civilizations to modern societies, Saylor's insights reveal common threads of power, economics, and the consequences of human actions. By embracing these historical narratives, we gain valuable wisdom to navigate the complexities of today's world. Ultimately, Saylor's message is clear. History is not just a record of the past, but a guide for the future. By learning from our collective past, we can make better decisions and create a brighter tomorrow. Before we get on with the video, we'd like to introduce our sponsor, Stampseed. Don't forget to follow the link in our description below for 15% off your stamping kit. Furthermore, 77% of our viewers on this channel are not yet subscribed. If you are enjoying this content and want to support our efforts, please hit that subscribe button and help our videos find more people. Without further ado, here is Michael Saylor.
Now, I would say what I do very often is I listen to the audio versions of books and audio histories. And one thing I've been doing is rereading / listening The Story of Civilization. So that's The History of Western Civilization by Will and Ariel Durant. And it's a dozen volumes, 1,000 pages each volume. It takes about 50 hours to get through each one. And it's our Oriental heritage and the life of Greece and Caesar and Christ, the history of Rome, and in the Middle Ages, the Age of Faith. Right now I'm listening to the Age of Voltaire, and I think it's really, really constructive to do this for a couple reasons. First of all, now you can, when I'm on a treadmill or walking down the street or in a car, I'm listening. So I feel like I accomplish more with my time than if I listened to the same song on repeat 98 times, even though I enjoy the song, but it's like 98 times the same song. But the second thing is when you study the history of the world, whether it's the story of Western civilization or Murray Rothbard wrote some really detailed books on economic circumstances in the United States before Revolutionary War called Conceived in Liberty, or he wrote an Austrian economist view on the history of economic thought. And so the history of economic thought for thousands of years. And when you listen to those things at the age of maturity, you understand better and differently than when first of all, I didn't read it, in my teens or 20s. And now I do read certain things. But the second thing is if you've lived long enough, then when you read the stories again, you understand what happened and it makes a lot more sense. And it's very relevant to Bitcoin because what you see is you see the tension between chaos and order, and between authority, those wishing to impose authority, and then those wishing to promulgate freedom.
Today's video is sponsored by Stampseed. Don't store your Bitcoin in cold storage without stamping your seed phrase on an indestructible titanium plate. Stampseed is fireproof, rust-proof, impact-proof, and easy to hide. It has no loose parts and will give you ultimate peace of mind that your Bitcoin is safe and sound for the long term. Click the link in the description below for 15% off your stamping kit. Welcome to Bit Intelligence. We are committed to bringing you top-notch Bitcoin-only content. Subscribe to our channel and hit that bell icon. Okay, back to the video.
And also, it helps you to overcome a lot of tropes, a lot of cliches. For example, people have been creating money or currencies for thousands and thousands of years. And in just about every single one of these stories, it always starts with a new ruler, a virtuous society, a new currency. They keep it strong. They expand. Everybody trades in the currency. Then they expand some further. Then they have to fight a war. Then they print more money to fight the war. Then they debase the currency. Pretty soon, the currency isn't worth anything. People don't want to trade with them because they debased the currency. They inflated it away. And then at some point, the soldiers realize that the money they're being paid in is worthless, or the soldiers don't get paid. And when the soldiers don't get paid, they all mutiny or they desert. And then invariably what happens then is someone outside of those borders wins the battle. And of course, that civilization blames their decline on the barbarians. Like, it wasn't our fault. It was bad guys who speak a different language or have a different religion. They actually attacked us unprovoked. And the story is always bad people caused the collapse of our civilization. But the real story generally is the civilization got fat, dumb, and happy, and then they got arrogant, and then they started counterfeiting money, and then they forgot that you can't pay your own soldiers with counterfeit money. And somewhere between the people starving to death or all the soldiers deserting, they found that they weren't able to continue with the wars they were fighting. And then they lose the war. And then the next society rises, and then they do it all over again. And it happens. It's not a dozen times. It's not 100 times. If you read this, it's thousands and thousands of times you see the rise and the decline and the fall and the reemergence. And there are always these common principles. And the principles have to do with power and energy. If you don't understand firepower, like the Japanese, they didn't really want to embrace guns, so they just passed a law, no guns. And then the Westerners showed up with guns. The same thing happened in China for a while, where they wanted to close their borders, and so they were against modern techniques. And then the Westerners show up with firepower, and then the borders get open, and then the political power structure collapses. And then at some point, someone comes up with a better cannon, and the people in denial lose the next battle, and then somebody comes up with a better ship. And then the people in denial have less sea power, and so they get choked to death. And then someone comes up with a tank, and then there's airplanes, and it goes on like that. It's always about harnessing power, and you've got the physical energy, and that's how people win the wars. And then you have the economic energy, and all the really good societies, they manage to create trading networks on a strong currency that people trust. And then eventually the grandson of the person that set it up gets a bit cheaper. And then the great grandkids get a bit cheaper. They start fighting amongst each other. Then they debase the currency. Then their armies desert them, and their trading partners don't want to trade with them. And all of the commercial energy bypasses them. And then they blame it on the barbarians. That's all in Will Durant. If you read it, and what you realize, there's just nothing new under the sun. Everything's been played out. And history is almost the story of a bunch of arrogant alpha males that are a bit ignorant, that think that this time it's different, and they were put on Earth to fix things. And they go, Alexander the Great goes gallivanting off, in his late teenage years. And of course, we call him the Great, but the joke is, after he basically conquered 200 countries and lost all of his army, he died by age 33, and everything collapses within months after he's dead. So it's like you can do this stuff for a year, 2 years, 10 years, and then everything collapses under its own weight, and it goes on and on and on like that. So I really like listening to that or reading those histories. I think you can learn a lot from them. And the most useful thing you can learn is, this is not the first time this has been done. In fact, it's common throughout human history. Every single civilization, it failed because either it couldn't channel power, it was less powerful technically from an engineering point of view, right? Or because it couldn't channel capital, like economic power, and its monetary systems were completely defective, or they were inferior. right? The society that trades glass beads gets stomped on by the society that trades metal coins, and the ones that trade gold coins stomp on the ones that trade copper coins. And then even then, you believe that gold is money. The Spaniards go off, conquer the New World, they bring back all the gold. It doesn't solve the problem because they inflate the gold supply by a factor of 5. So they created hyperinflation. Their own economy collapsed, and the Spanish Empire collapsed because they didn't understand the implications of inflating the money supply. And they figured that out the hard way 1,700 years after the Romans figured it out, and they figured it out 500 years after the Greeks figured it out. And it happened in Egypt, and it happened in Assyria, and it happened in China. And it's happened as many times as we can write it down. And it's probably happened 100,000 times that we didn't write down. And so, yeah, I encourage people to read history, especially good political history, good economic history. In 1500, they were using paintings as a store of value in Italy, right? That's an interesting thing that comes out. You'll find all of these principles just keep popping up. How do you find scarce, desirable assets to store your value in a portable fashion? And if you read it, then you'll say, "Wow, Bitcoin would have solved that problem." So, yeah, I think it's great, and I encourage people to read Durant and to read Rothbard and to read, pretty much any history written by a reputable source, and do it now that you're an adult, because you understand things now that you didn't understand when you were in school, and it will resonate differently with you.
As the CEO of MicroStrategy, Saylor brings a unique perspective, blending his entrepreneurial acumen with a deep reverence for the lessons of the past. Through his reflections, we have glimpsed into his profound appreciation for the past, driven by his routine of exploring historical narratives. Stay tuned for more enlightening discussions, and remember to subscribe for the latest recaps, insights, and films about all things Bitcoin. If you want to watch another one of our podcast recaps, try this one here. We'll see you next time.